What does Jimmy Garoppolo bring to the table? He's accurate, and he's able to get the balls to his guys close to the line of scrimmage. We saw him succeed in the Kyle Shanahan. And I think that that's going to lower the A dot for Davante Adams, but also it keeps Adams in this goal line touchdown role. So I don't have a lot of issues with Jimmy Garoppolo moving to the Vegas Raiders for a fantasy impact of the pass catchers. I think it's going to work out just fine for Hunter Renfrow. I think it's going to work out just fine for Darren Waller. I have more confidence in Davante Adams than if the Raiders would have just drafted a rookie quarterback, or if the Raiders would have gone out and kept or signed Jarrett Stidham. Stidham ended up, we'll talk about him in a second, but he signed a 2-year deal for $10 million to be the backup in Denver. So he really wasn't in the plans for the Vegas Raiders. But with Jimmy Garoppolo, we know what we're going to get from him. Jimmy Garoppolo's ceiling is as a top 12 quarterback, like in that 10 to 12 range. That's his absolute ceiling. His floor, though, can get scary. We can see him disappear with bad decision making, with those low A dot passes. Like drives can just wither away almost immediately if he has an incompletion and then one completion that's for a yard or two. Now, maybe we see Coach McDaniel, Josh McDaniel, challenge Garoppolo to throw the ball further down the field. That's possible. And Adams can do it. Adams has spent most of his career with Aaron Rodgers and was about a mid-pack yards per reception type of wide receiver for the majority of his career. It was the touchdowns that buoyed him because Rodgers can hit his guys in the end zone. But it was last year with Derek Carr where we saw Davante Adams jump up in yards per. So I don't have a lot of concerns with Jimmy Garoppolo moving for the other fantasy relevant pieces. I think he stays how he is as a mid-pack quarterback too. I could see him being like between quarterback 18 and quarterback 20 once it's all said and done. And the 3 years, $72 million, I think like 32 or 34 of it is fully guaranteed. So Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's what you're paying for starters, 30 something $million right now. We just saw Daniel Jones sign for $40 million. So Jimmy Garoppolo getting $34 or so million guaranteed sets him up to be either a bridge quarterback short term, and the Raiders can draft a quarterback. I think they're at 7. They can draft someone at 7, or the Raiders can invest long term in Jimmy Garoppolo. That's fine. So they have set themselves up for a few different options based on what is successful. So we'll see what happens with the Raiders, but at least they've gone in on Garoppolo. The Texans were also interested in Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think the Raiders just came in and said, we want you to be our guy. And to be able to throw to the likes of Davante Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow would be a significant upgrade over what the Texans have. Brandon Cooks, John Mechie, and Nico Collins. Give me that all day if I'm Jimmy Garoppolo. Put yourself in a place to succeed. So that's how I'm viewing Jimmy Garoppolo himself as a mid-pack quarterback too. His ceiling has high quarterback too. His floor is pretty scary. And then the other pass catchers, I think that firms up Darren Waller's role in the offense. I think Hunter Renfrow will be a PPR useful. So I think you can be drafting Hunter Renfrow. I'm not sure his exact ADP off the top of my head, but Hunter Renfrow should be a player that you should be considering with super cheap stacks. You're going to draft Davante Adams either at the end of the first round, maybe beginning of the second round, but you can get Darren Waller. I've seen Darren Waller go round 8, round 9, etc. And so looking at where Hunter Renfrow is, Renfrow is wide receiver 71, ADP 160. So that should be fine. I think that's going to be pretty cheap. And right now, for what it's worth, Jimmy Garoppolo is quarterback 29 in ADP on Underdog Fantasy. So you're going to be able to get the Raiders offense pretty cheap. And maybe you pair the Raiders with the Chiefs offense. If you can get, I don't know, if Kelsey falls a little bit, you can get Kelsey and Adams at that 1-2 turn. And then maybe Waller later, Hunter Renfrow later, Kadarius Toney. You can really be able to attack these Chiefs and Raiders pretty cheaply. Or maybe you go, this is a possibility. You go Adams in round 1, and then Mike Williams and Keenan Allen in rounds 4 and 5, Herbert in round 6, see if he's there. So there's a possibility to be able to double stack and make the Raiders a cheap stack that you can pair with maybe a higher flying offense in your best ball tournaments.